On this 18th mighty morning, good morning.
Good morning.
They didn't even have time to remove Defense Minister Fedorov before planning his arrest. Things in the Ukrainian government are really not going well.
A little digression.
And that's what we'll talk about today. Look, yes, before we start, please subscribe to this channel and let's get started. So what do we have here? On the radio, they're already demanding the arrest of the former defense minister for allegedly attempting a coup.
Digression.
A certain member of the Verkhovna Rada, Alexei Kurchenko, he usually talks about utilities, but this time he suddenly started discussing these political twists and turns, made the following statement. Basically, in this situation, Zelensky should arrest Fedorov on charges of treason and attempted coup, said Kurchenko. The deputy added that this opinion is shared not only by him, but also by other Ukrainian political heavyweights. He explained his position by the fact that Fedorov, while serving as acting Minister of Defense, spoke out against Zelensky, and all this apparently worsened the situation in the country. But, you know, what a horror. Someone is speaking out against Zelensky, urgently arrest him, urgently remove him from office. Well, at least they didn't shoot him. And for that, thanks for now. Then there are also some opposition figures. I think many of you know them, well, those who watch the channel often. Masitchuk stated that he is convinced Fedorov will be formally named a suspect. Everything will be fully made public, and Zelensky is extremely furious. Of course, he would have given the opportunity, well, you know this word, to become a dollar millionaire, but now, well, today he was just walked all over, so that's how things are. Well, basically, this is not the first or the last time that politicians are imprisoned there after they are removed from office. In South Korea, as far as I remember, not a single president lives a normal life. Just as soon as their presidency ends, it's prison, end of term prison. Romance, as they said in Gentlemen of Fortune. Good luck. Well, and maybe the same thing will start happening in Ukraine. Before that, there was a certain mutual respect among presidents and various ministers. They could jab at each other in some way, but without any serious criminal threats, and let alone any threats at all. But now everything is changing. The country has changed drastically, and as we can see, now there is a direct threat. And just recently, this Fedorov, literally just a few weeks ago, I think I read news from official Ukrainian sources where Fedorov was being highly praised. He developed drones there, made agreements with other countries, we'll talk about that today as well. And he improved something else too. Well, in general, he's just the perfect person, the right man for the job, and suddenly he's already facing a criminal investigation. Who would have thought? Through Ukrainians. They add he already became all everyone expected. But the real problem for Ukraine is not only the chaos and confusion in the government, but also that its foreign policy looks just like that very same, like the landing of the Broiler 747. Nobody got the reference, leave a like. The thing is, as I mentioned a few days ago, Senator Graham from the US has passed away, and it turns out this has put Ukraine's lobbying efforts in Washington at risk. Ukraine and its allies, we're told, hope to maintain support in Washington in the coming months. It's no surprise that the sudden death of influential Senator Lindsey Graham, long Kyiv's top ally in Congress, has created such a stir. What's the problem here? Because he wasn't a friend of Ukraine. Senator Graham said more than once, look, we'll take their trillions of dollars over there. Secondly, he said, yes, he said it directly, patting Zelensky on the shoulder. He talked about how, look, our soldiers aren't dying. We're not spending a cent to produce weapons there. Well, that was a different time. But look, Ukrainians, it's like we're basically fighting with their soldiers. And smiling happily, the leaders of the Ukrainian state nodded their heads and said, yes, yes, of course. But now something unclear is happening. Unclear, first of all, this very Stefanishina, the Ukrainian ambassador to the US, was removed from her position. As many media outlets say, I can't confirm anything, but many media say she was removed for corruption. Supposedly, again, I talked about this. And she bought an apartment in Kyiv for 4 times less than its real value. And she was handling various funds, let's put it mildly, milking the budget in a way that wouldn't sound like slander. But neither Kyiv nor the US like this kind of management. They might send someone else. That Yulia, what's her name, who was prime minister, they were planning to make her the ambassador of Ukraine to the US too, but something didn't work out and she refused. So by the way, later the current Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine also refused to become the Minister of Defense. Apparently, he also wanted to avoid a criminal case against him in 6 months. There is complete chaos and confusion. That is the competencies of these people. The ones who are appointed as ministers and deputies raise so many questions that even our wonderful Ministry of Rhetorical Questions, the Golden Ravine, the herd of Derry Riga, cannot answer them. But the thing is, they take a person without education, without any administrative management experience, and give him the highest, the top position. Over there, they just wing it. If it doesn't work out, they just give you another position, also a lucrative one. It's not for nothing that Masachuk said that Fedorov was allowed to become a dollar millionaire. He wasn't a poor man even before that. In particular, today you can find information on the internet that he worked at and managed a bot factory that was aimed at countering negative opinions directed at Zelensky. And he was getting paid for that, being an IT specialist, an IT manager, a leader. He had some kind of PR SMM studio, I think his company was called that. Well, all of this was happening in that studio, all those technological mysteries, and a little money was being made too, maybe not so little, so that's the kind of things that were going on. So, what do we have about Senator Graham, the late one I mentioned? He says that's exactly why we're actively working with Trump's team and Congress to finally force Russia to make peace. Of course, everyone is mourning Graham's death, naturally, but we are hoping for constructive action from Washington, a high-ranking Ukrainian official told the publication on condition of anonymity, but here we can assume it's either Sibiga, who wrote Rasrenks and a full impeachment, or Kachka, who is no longer Kachka, but is probably going on a sea voyage. Because he is no longer the Minister for European Integration and Relations with other countries, including the US. Well, our condolences, that's how it is. Suddenly, Yermak, the one they tried to imprison but didn't, came out of hibernation. Maybe there are some internal conflicts here too, because again, you still have to figure out how to dig up dirt on such a great person. Someone found something, tried, but it didn't work out, and maybe all that we're seeing right now is just the surface of the swamp. And what's in there? How much is inside we may never find out, or we might find out, but only when it's already too late. Someone on the local internet after a nuclear war will publish some documents found in the basement of a ruined building, and 3.5 people will find out what really happened. But they won't care anymore because the Geiger counter is showing the approach of a radiation storm just like in Fallout 4. But let's not paint too bleak a picture. So what did Yermak do? He paid a mighty visit to the command post of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine with the powerful Oleksandr Syrsky in one of the frontline regions. And the trip took place against the backdrop of the resignation of Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov and the public conflict between the former minister and the Commander-in-Chief. Here we can assume that either he carried out his own initiative to negotiate with this very Syrsky, or the initiative of his wonderful protege, or maybe the other way around. You get the idea. And he acted as a mediator, even though right now he is nobody at all in the Ukrainian freak show. Absolutely nobody. That is, he took some position for himself there, something like a lawyer for military affairs, something like that. But we know. So, around 7 o'clock Kyiv time, the mighty Yermak visited the powerful command post of the powerful Commander-in-Chief, Commander of the Armed Forces, Oleksandr Syrsky. According to the information, the visit took place against the backdrop of, well, here, basically, they repeat the same thing 8 times. But neither Yermak nor, even more so, Syrsky publicly commented on any of this. As they say, they declined to comment. As for Europe, which was overseen by this very woman, this very Minister for European Integration, I honestly didn't think such ministers existed, but it turns out they do. So that's how we integrated with Europe. And it turns out that Europe is already planning to send troops to Ukraine. In my opinion, that's a wonderful thing. They came, sent in the military, and now the Third World War has officially begun. And we're being told that European countries should deploy a military contingent in Ukraine right now without waiting for a ceasefire. A certain professor from the School of Advanced International Studies stated that such a move is needed primarily by Europe itself. After all, it could help its population prepare for a possible war with Russia. Honestly, I just don't understand some of the logical conclusions of such people. I mean, it's obvious that if you deploy NATO forces to Ukraine, Russia will most likely take some measures. I don't know what kind of measures, maybe something powerful, maybe not so much. Maybe they'll just draw some more brown-red lines and say that it's not good to do that. But still, the people of Europe are not ready to fight at all, even less so than the people of Ukraine who have been prepared for war since 2014 onward. Everything there happened step by step, gradually, like frogs being boiled in water. They kept boiling and eventually got cooked. But in Europe now, things are a bit different. Nobody wants to fight at all. I'm sure there will be some militarized characters like all sorts of thick-headed types, but nothing good will come out of it. And then someone suddenly suggests sending in the troops right now. Are you guys out of your minds? Maybe that professor got a huge grant and bought the wrong thing. Instead of tea, they slipped him something else, some other stuff. Plant-based substances, let's say, or something else. Well, to suggest something like that in an official article, you really have to be a genius. So, he notes that European countries are rapidly increasing their defense budgets not because of Trump's demands, although, again, this contradicts common sense and the facts. The same Ursula von der Leyen signed a contract with the US on behalf of Europe, an obligation to purchase weapons worth something like $500 billion, not $500 million, €500 billion. What are you talking about? What do you mean it's because of Trump's demands? It's right there. And it's not because they plan to fight in Ukraine. The reason is that in Europe more and more people consider the prospect of a war with Russia outside of Ukraine to be more realistic. Well, they're kind of crazy too, but just look at the current situation. Look at how things stand. The war in Ukraine has been going on for 5 years already. And so far, well, yes, there are some developments, but everything is stuck. How and in how much time, in how many decades would Russia move from Ukraine to Europe, even if it consistently takes a few dozen kilometers a year? How much time would that take? And again, with what kind of effort? So, okay, let's suppose that some territories are captured. I'm not going to talk about countries. Here we have one country with a not very good economy right now, by the way, which is trying to take over another country. Well, let's suppose something happened and it worked out. The captured territory has basically been steamrolled. There's nothing there, well, not even anything alive. Look at all those places like Bakhmut, Artyomovsk, and other cities. It will take not just years, but decades to restore them. Huge amounts of resources are needed for that. Honestly, it will make everyone's hair stand on end, if they have any left. And now they're telling us that not only do we have to rebuild, but the economy in Russia isn't anything special right now. It's falling apart at the seams. Even Nabulina is already hiding somewhere. She's nowhere to be found, poor thing. She's disappeared. The ruble is rising. Oil and gas revenues are falling. Yeah, oil might go up now, but still, like I said, you can't pull this off single-handedly. And the further it goes, the more they want to run away, convinced they're right. And now suddenly they're saying that in a few years Russia will start capturing Poland or something, although Poland is getting ready too. But this professor is saying some strange things, really unusual ones. And he also says that there's a survey showing that about a third of Europeans said they're not ready to defend their country, but naturally the lowest rate was recorded in Italy. There, almost 80% said that no one would do anything at all. And it turned out that this is the influence of pro-Russian propaganda or political forces that are against the rearmament of Europe. In short, the article is so strange, so I'm not afraid to say it, brainless, that I just don't want to keep reading it. I probably won't do it. Because it contradicts both the facts, common sense, and the very structure of the universe. And in general, I would advise this author Tocci, I understand that's either an Italian man or woman, whoever they are, to write fairy tales for children instead. That would be interesting, because it would be something like, well, anyway, never mind. The next thing is that suddenly in Germany, once again in Europe, they started talking about the resignation of that very Fedorov. He made a bunch of deals there, and now everyone is unhappy. In Berlin, they say that they are unhappy. Traditionally, the federal government does not comment, but Defense Minister Pistorius responded. Pistorius personally addressed Fedorov. Not least, it was your courage in innovation that gave Ukrainians new momentum in this drawn-out mess. And probably Pistorius also put some powerful emoji on Facebook, which undoubtedly supported Fedorov, who is again under threat of criminal prosecution. Apparently that didn't help Fedorov much, so Pistorius supported him even more, highly praised the excellent and trust-based cooperation. Then there's the expert Kukharov, some European who said that Zelensky really shot himself in the foot. And he says that it seems, well, actually that's the whole comment. Well, and apparently some comments we're told are coming from some German commentators on Elon Musk's social network X. They call Fedorov's resignation a mistake, though they admit they don't fully understand what's happening or why. Most importantly, they don't understand but still comment. It's remarkable when someone comments on an issue they don't understand at all. And they say, well, now we're going to actively comment on Fedorov's resignation and its reasons, but if you don't understand it, how can you comment on it? It looks very strange, but I think we've already gotten used to it. And then suddenly again there were people in the German leadership who supported Ukraine, but among the general population there wasn't much support. More than half of Germans, over 50%, are in favor of completely closing the borders to refugees. More than 2/3 of Germans support the right of refugees to protection, but they are suspicious of various things. For example, that many asylum seekers are only looking for economic opportunities and social benefits. 51 respondents are in favor of stopping it, 62 believe that asylum seekers and migrants do not need protection, but are rather looking for economic opportunities or social benefits. To be fair, this includes more than just Ukrainians, but they are part of the question and have the highest poll percentage. Well, I think we can wrap this up powerfully with a speech by the magnificent patriot of his country, the leader, the great Starmer, who is no longer the prime minister but continues to say all sorts of things. Among other things, he stated that our support for Ukraine will be eternal. You don't really need to read this article, it's strange but also interesting. Well, you've already been fired, for heaven's sake. You only have a couple of weeks left in your position, and you go to a foreign country and declare that the support will be eternal. By tomorrow they'll change the law you signed, or whatever it is, some rule bill, they'll erase all mentions of what happened from the newspapers, and that's it. They might even slap you with a criminal case for wasting those very British taxpayers' money. All in all, it all looks extremely strange, extremely ridiculous. You know, before I used to read this stuff and be surprised, but now I read it and think, yeah, nonsense, that's normal. More nonsense here, and here it's just complete idiocy. Well, basically, it's expected. Oh, something smart, something where you can really see that the person is trying to reason. Now that already smells like something's off. That's probably not good at all. Well, I think you can guess who we're going to look at next. Of course, our magnificent leaders, and there will be a lot of them, a lot of people among them. But first, we need to invite them so they don't get offended, so that all these counts, marquises, barons, baronets, the upper echelons of the internet, come to us.
Well then, let's listen to the clowns.
Please, comrades, and now all these marquises, counts, barons, baronets come to us and start spouting all sorts of nonsense. So, for example, who do we have? We have Fedina, again, I think it's Fedina, right? Basically, yes, the one who didn't go abroad again to toast Ukraine, but now she says, oh, we've seen this, excuse me, please. She's talking about how suddenly there were provocateurs from Dnipro at that very incident in Lviv, suspecting that all of a sudden there are people from another city in another city. Fedina dislikes this, but at least she doesn't ask what district they're from. But we do have one of them here. Here's some journalist. Let's take a look.
Riding on public transport, I look like, wow.
The girl has like 3 little facial muscles really developed. And she says, oh, it's just another tough girl who says there's nothing scary in the army, no one dies there, you don't have to fight, you don't have to dig trenches, you don't have to defend your land, you just have to sign papers, everything's great.
See, we've already noticed all sorts of brigades are recruiting these days, and then I even got a text message today asking me to enlist. I get that these are just notifications from different sources.
What a smart woman.
Different offers, all kinds of proposals, so they're, listen, both organization and information processing.
Let your companion say something already. This redhead just loves to chat. She used to be like Anfisa Chekova, but then something went wrong, and she stopped being the host of a channel with interesting content. But, well, she became a patriot, a fighter, a full-on Valkyrie.
Focus solely on organizing and systematizing documents. Schedule meetings separately, similar to PR roles.
Like organization. In the army, organizing a meeting, like PR. Is it about organizing a meeting with the enemy on the front line in a trench as a PR person or what? Honestly, I lost the host's train of thought, but she's urgently looking to the side, probably calling for help. Maybe she's lost herself. A girl with bangs combed straight over her eyes is looking at her strangely. It's absolutely impossible to understand why this was done.
Military personnel serve as event managers for the event.
Event managers in the army. I'm starting to get confused. I know there are various things there.
But such a choice, such a number of professions, and it's far from just infantry, or so it seems to me.
The girl above smiles bravely with well-developed facial muscles.
How is Ukrainian recruiting developing overall?
God, out of 42 seconds, 33 have already passed while that redhead was chatting, and only now did they give the floor to that redhead, whose name is Lesya Okuryainova or Okuryainova. Well, in general, she is the deputy head of the Ukrainian Center for Security and Cooperation. What does she have to do with the army? Who is she? Why? A lot of questions, but as usual, there are no answers to them.
Mobilization isn't possible every year.
Ah, right. So why didn't she mobilize herself? Or is this her war? I mean, is she working with documents or with pastries? Her muscles are developed right here, so it feels like she's on, well...
And we know from examples of all wars that happened without general mobilization, it's impossible to win such a war. I mean, there are some very good ideas.
What did she want to say? Why? Why did they put her on? To understand, well, as always. Well, so what? Do we have anyone else here? There's Shvaiku. We've watched all of them. We've watched... Yeah, in general, there's really no one left to watch. We've watched everyone. Well, maybe I think this one here.
They already face major economic problems and sanctions leading to this.
He's talking about the Russian Federation.
Russia's collapse isn't actually necessary.
A tan journalist appears happy and will likely hurry to share predictions about the Russian Federation's collapse in the chat.
That's what happened. Well, and the third time, I think everyone will definitely lay everything out, and Russia will already shrink to those objective circumstances by which analysts apparently...
It will be. It's just like Robot Werther, only in human form. Is that all this?
They already have serious problems.
In the end... that's apparently the whole speech. Overall wonderful. He said that Russia will fall apart. Well, we are grateful to this speaker for the happy present we're living in. Goodbye, everyone. That's it.